This is Andi Purewal for
Where am I
Boxing.
looking?
Look at me, yeah,
Okay.
you perfect look at me. Uh, this is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by boxing royalty Lennox Lewis here in Las Vegas. Lennox, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you. How are
Yes,
you doing?
I'm doing great. Great being in Las Vegas. Can't remember the last time I was here, but it's always great coming to Las Vegas.
I'm glad to see you're in good spirits. I don't know if you recall, the last time we did an interview in Las
I
Vegas
do remember.
was the back of the MGM after Wilder Ortiz, and that was 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
Time flies, Lennox.
Yes, yes. Time does fly. I've gotten more gray.
You're looking good though, okay, because you've just turned 60 as well, so
Yes.
happy belated
Thank you
birthday. Did
very
you get up
much.
to much for it?
Oh yeah. Went out with my friends, had some fun. I don't feel 60.
You don't look it like I say,
Thank
Lennox,
you.
so I'm glad that you was able to enjoy it. Obviously, Vegas, Lennox, is synonymous with boxing. It's seen as being the mecca of the sport. You had that one big night with Hasim Rahman here. When you think about Las Vegas and you think about the history behind it, what makes Vegas just such a special place for these big events?
Well, for me, what made it the mecca of boxing for me was Caesars. That's where uh, I was fighting, and all the movie stars actually coming out to watch me was great. That's why I call it the mecca. And everybody that's a boxer, knows that great fights happen in Vegas. So all the boxers that are coming up would want to box in Vegas because it was the mecca of boxing.
Do you feel like boxing misses Caesar's Palace? Because I can't remember the last time we had a big event here.
Yeah, no, boxing definitely miss it. I miss it because the, the the first thing I remember is all the movie stars coming out, and it's an outdoor show, and it's nice to box outdoor instead of indoor. So that's what made it nice for me.
Obviously, I'm going to come on to the settings shortly, but obviously Saturday it's at the Allegiant Stadium. A lot of the events have moved over towards MGM, T-Mobile Arena and what have you. But what separates Caesars Palace, other than everybody who turns up here, in
Yeah.
terms of the venue itself, what separates Caesars Palace?
What separates Caesar's Palace is basic the walk-in. When you're walking in, you're not walking in by yourself. Everybody's dressed up in suits. The girls are dressed in nice dresses. And then it's an outdoor show as well. So that's what made Caesars so nice.
We mentioned Hasim Rahman earlier. I saw you caught up with him yesterday.
Yeah,
what
yeah.
do you guys kind of catch up about?
Oh man, we're trying to do this third fight.
I'm sure you'll still get plenty of people tuning in.
I'm glad that you look at that as a joke though, because it was.
No, I'm glad you was, Lennox. Just obviously with the reason we're here, Canelo Crawford.
Yeah.
A lot of people can try to simplify a fight and say a good big guy always beats a good small guy.
Right.
Is that just too simple of a breakdown going into this type of fight?
It's simple, but not that simple because this is not no ordinary small guy. And, is a guy that's basically, he's a martial artist in that sense. He's great with his hands and he's great with his movement. And he's up testing his skill up against a guy that's heavier than him. So that's an interesting matchup, great matchup. Two champions, two guys that have knocked out a lot of people, two guys have been in the sport long. I would say Canelo has a lot more experience when it comes to fighting and the fighters that he fought. So, that he's got an edge that way on experience.
One of the big talking points has obviously been the natural weight difference between the pair of them. Now, they both did their actual weigh-in this morning and both came in at 167.5 pounds.
Wow.
So that reaction there, Lennox, I asked a few people going into this fight, if you was Terence Crawford, would you try and get as close to the limit as possible, or would you maybe come in as light into the 168 limit as possible? So maybe he comes in at, say, 160.1 to keep some of his better attributes, for example, his ring work and being able to move across the ring easily. Are you surprised he's come in at 167.5?
Yes, I am. I would probably come in about 5 pounds less, just to keep the speed, keep the sharpness. But if he feels he needs that strength, that power, it's up to him and his trainer.
I've seen photos of them both on the scales this morning, both of them absolutely shredded as you can imagine still. But does this give us more of an inclination and more of an idea that Terence is going to look to be a bit more aggressive than what most might have thought before the fight?
Yeah, he may think about being aggressive. I don't think he will do that because he's up against a puncher, guy that punches hard. And Canelo doesn't really waste punches. He's in some sense, a body snatcher. So if you allow him to hit you to the body, you're going to be weakened by his body punches because he throws good ones. And that's all he's known for, throwing great body punches, a great hook. And to me, he's determined to come in there and win this fight. He's looking to win this fight. He's in good shape. And, he got some good sparring partners in his camp. So that tells me that he's taking this fight really serious and he wants to win it.
Do you think there's been any mind games on that sparring front? Because he brought Jaron Ennis in to spar with him, and Jaron Ennis had been chasing that Terence Crawford fight for a long time, and Terence then moved up from 147 to 154 and the fight never materialised. But I know it's been a fight Jaron Ennis has wanted. Do you feel like there's a bit of mind games there as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if I was boxing, Evander Holyfield, and I brought in Mike Tyson as my sparring partner, you would know that I'm taking the fight serious because I'm got the next greatest boxer to come in there to help me be greater than I am.
The one talking point with Canelo has been, well, not the one, but one of the bigger ones is if he's been on the decline over the last few years, maybe since he became undisputed, we haven't seen that standout performance, if you will. Do you put that down to him being maybe on the decline, Lennox, or do you feel like maybe he's just not being as motivated in fights? Even the Bivol fight that he lost, he didn't expect Bivol to be as good as what he was.
Yeah, it's somebody to motivate him. I think this fight motivates him. 150 mil would motivate me. You know what I mean? So I don't think he's unmotivated for this fight.
For both men, what is one key factor that you think will be the difference on Saturday night?
For one key thing with Bud Crawford, he's got to move well. He's got to be able to throw good combinations and get out of town to make sure he doesn't get hit. He needs to punch and not get hit.
And for Canelo?
For Canelo, he needs to go after him and, get him into some exchanges and, put his combinations together and throw his power punch, especially that left hand to the body. He throws that tremendously. Left hook to the body, left hook to the head. Bud Crawford has to worry about that. Look out for those type of punches.
I know in your interviews today so far, Lennox, you've been asked about a certain rising heavyweight prodigy, Moses Atauma. What stood out for you, Lennox, just seeing Moses and his rise?
What stood out to me is he's good, he's fast, he's determined, and he still has a little ways to go, not to rush. I think he's at the right pace now, and he's got the right fights behind him. Really, every fight he has, he should be learning from. So he's on the right pace right now.
Speaking with people from Queensbury, Frank Warren and etc., they all say that they reached out to Jermaine Franklin, he turned the fight down. Apparently there's been talks with Hrgovic and Hrgovic has turned it down. Where do you go with Moses when it's so hard to get people to sign on the dotted line and to give him the fight that you deem to be best for him and his development?
Well, there's fighters all over the world that everybody's looking for a fight. You just have to find the right opponent for him. You can't put him up against easy guys because we know how that goes. You knock out a guy, you knock out another guy. All of a sudden you think you can knock out everybody, and you go in there trying to knock out everybody instead of boxing. So, that's what he's got to learn. He's got to go into fights that are going to help him be a boxer.
But with Alexander Usyk as well in that equation, then Turki Al-Shaker said he'd like to make Usyk and Atauma next if he can. Alexander said that he only has maybe 1 or 2 fights left in him. It could obviously change if he's still feeling good, but that was the current state of play. Atauma, as you can imagine, a fighter, he said, yeah, I'll do it. He just wants the fight.
Of course he'll do it. He's a fighter.
Do you think it'd be too soon for him?
Absolutely too soon. He doesn't have to have that fight. Still got a couple fights that he needs to learn from. He may need another training to bring in some other skills that he has. It's just a learning process until the right time, and you don't want the right time to be too soon.
Do you see any similarities with Moses and kind of your generation, or maybe just before your generation of fighters and opponents?
To a point, I mean, Evander Holyfield was like Moses Atama. He's in there holding his own. Not a true big heavyweight, but he was able to beat a lot of the big guys because he had good movement, good hand, good defense, and good hand speed.
I'm glad you brought up Evander Lennox, because one of my questions to you is, a lot of people have tried to draw a comparison between Evander and Alexander, because obviously both achieved the great feat of cruiserweight undisputed and heavyweight undisputed. In this fantasy world of matchups that we like to draw out, if we had ever seen an Evander Holyfield at his prime and an Alexander Usyk at his prime, can you break down for me how you think that fight would have played out?
No, I can't. I think both of them have unique boxing ability. You know, Alexander Usyk has that movement, has that aspect where he's there and he's very elusive. Plus, you don't think he's got power, but he does have power, and that would be one of the greatest matchups in the world, putting Evander Holyfield against Alexander Usyk.
What would have been Evander's advantages in that fight?
They both have good advantages. Both have good defense. Both have good movement. Both in the same weight class, in the sense that the cruiserweight's coming up. It would be a great fight. You're gonna have to ask Siri that one.
Yeah, I will do.
Yeah.
I will do, and then we can add that into the answer, Lennox. But yeah, one thing with Usyk, I know you asked it earlier. How would you have beaten Alexander Usyk, Lennox?
Alexander Usyk is a great fighter. There's so many things that he can do. He breaks down. He's like me. He breaks down his opponents differently and fights each opponent differently. And that's what you're supposed to do. Each opponent that you face, you got to look at him and say, how do I beat this man? And then you got to go out there and do it.
And just a couple to end on, we have the Fabio Wardley and Joseph Parker fight on the horizon. Neither men needed to take this fight because both are brilliantly placed in that heavyweight division. Firstly, how much credit do they deserve to still risk it all in a high-risk fight? And secondly, how can you see that one unfolding?
Going to be a great fight. Oddly enough, Oddly throws good punches. Some of the fights that he boxed, I didn't think he would do so well, but he did. He knocked the guys them out, and right now he's on an up path. I think this is a great fight for him. I think Joseph Parker has a lot of experience, a little bit more experience than Audley, and but it's going to be a great fight for the public.
And then also, I know you was asked earlier about the AJ and Tyson Fury rivalry. AJ calling Tyson out recently over Instagram. The regret both men might feel in their careers if they don't ever share the ring. Do you think that will be quite big for them, or do you think they'll be able to live with it?
I think they'd be able to live with it. I think it'd be disappointing for the British fans. I think that fight should have happened a long time ago. I think if there's a possibility to happen again, it should happen. But it's really up to both men.
Is the interest for you personally still there to see that fight?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a fight that never happened. You know, everybody wants to see that fight. Who would win out of Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua? You know, can you answer that question? Nobody can answer that question. We want to see the fight.
And I was about to end on Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather in an exhibition, Lennox. I know you joked about it.
I'm picking Mike Tyson.
So you're not going to see you try and face a winner then?
Well,
if the money's on the table?
If the money's on the table, I'll go at the winner.
Well, Lennox, listen, it's a pleasure to catch up with you. Enjoy the rest of your time here in Vegas. Enjoy Saturday.
Thanks
and
for
safe
having
travels to when you go back home.
Thank you very much. Bless.
Thank you, Lennox.